Let's do call to order, pledge, and then roll call. And we're going to start recording soon though, right?
Joe, can you hear us? Willis?
Check 1, 2.
Joe, we can't hear you if you can hear us, but you're the one that's controlling the recording. Hi, Eddie. All right, let me check with Joe.
I'm going to text him.
Jody's gonna text him.
All right. Joe, are you recording? Are you recording? Oh,
Hello.
you can't hear us, can you?
Hello. Scott. Yes.
He is
hi,
now
Scott.
joining.
Joe is hearing us on the way. That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so Jody,
Hold on, we just lost Jody.
no, she's on there. Jody, Joe said that you can record.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. Yep.
All right, we're all,
Recording now because it looked like it was, there we go.
all right, thank you, Jody.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everyone would please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so if I could just ask those that are Skyping in to mute your microphone after the meeting gets started, and after you identify yourselves, and just turn your microphone back on if you're asking questions.
Are we supposed to introduce ourselves? Because that's not on here.
It is not. The meeting is being recorded, so I'm just going to ask everybody to identify themselves for the purpose of the recording. We'll start with the young lady on the end.
Jackie Groves.
Brian Kale.
Nikki Dorshenko.
Greg Malloy.
Stephen Brodell.
Jody, are you looking for those that are Skyping in to identify themselves as well?
Please.
If we just have,
Avery, Assistant Superintendent.
Eddie Wadsworth, Elementary Principal.
Tracy Durkee, Middle High School Principal.
Brian Fairbrother, Director of Special Education.
Scott Boodleman, District Superintendent, Madison Oneida Boces.
Lisa Decker, Deputy Superintendent, Madison Oneida Boces.
Thank you.
All right, so that's everybody.
that's everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, can I please have a motion to approve the board minutes from the special meeting and budget workshop held February 25th, 2020?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can you hear us, Jody?
Yep.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the board minutes from the regular meeting held February 25th, 2020?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report for February 2020?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve warrant reports Fund A, Fund C, and Fund H as listed?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion to approve the investment of funds report for February 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the cash flow report for February 2020?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Did we have any questions for privilege of the floor, Jody?
No.
Okay. Superintendent's review the agenda?
There is an addendum to this month's agenda. We have Roman numeral 14, new business edition. It's a resolution regarding COVID-19. So that is an add. We also have what's listed on your addendum as Roman numeral 15, which actually needs to be renumbered to Roman numeral 16, board policy development review. It's going to be a first and second reading and approval of policy number 7700 and a supporting regulation connected to the mobile electronic device use agreement policy.
Superintendent's review of the calendar.
The calendar that was published in the fall is pretty much just, should just be struck out altogether, with the exception of what's coming up next month. We do have spring recess. We are still planning on running a spring recess from Friday, April 3rd through Monday, April 13th. There will be no instruction taking place during that initially regularly scheduled period of time. It's our hope that after spring recess, we have devices that we can deliver to kids that we can start to enhance our instruction after that point. During that spring recess period, we do plan on offering meals with food service program. We'll continue to offer free lunch and breakfast to our students during that time.
Okay. Lisa and Scott, your next recognition of visitors and delegations.
Lisa, your microphone is still muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, so Scott, I know you can't see what's going on, so I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to share my screen. So if you bear with me for 1 second, I'll bring up the first handout. Bear with me, I'm trying to find the screen that I'm trying to share with you. All right. I'm not able to get to the applications like I was earlier today when we tested this. Okay, let's try this. Okay, are you able to see a handout that says MO BOCES Basics Management Services?
Yes.
Great. Okay, Scott, that's the handout that's on the screen right now.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for having us tonight, even through the internet and through the phone. We appreciate it. We'll just do sort of an abbreviated version of our program summary. I know all of you have been with us in prior years, so that certainly will help. The first document is just a management services basic, but actually many of the principles apply to all of BOCES services. Before I get into that, I just want to run through some of the management services. So for example, the BOCES offers central bus maintenance, school lunch services, central business office, labor relations, legal services, policy services, public relations, grant writing, shared maintenance, risk management, printing and graphics, cooperative bidding, and Medicaid reimbursement services, just some of our management services. But if you look at the document in front of you, I think one important concept to realize with BOCES is that we only do the work that we're asked to do. We're not out there doing anything unless the school district wants it. In fact, 2 school districts have to want the service in order for us to provide it. And every year, school districts make decisions about what they want and what they do not want, and the school districts don't want it, we don't do it, and we change our staffing accordingly. And the deadline for that decision each year is May 1st. So every May 1st, you get to choose whether to participate or not. If you turn to the second page of the document, the back side of the I guess second page of the document, you'll see our revenue sources, or at least our lack of revenue sources. So we don't tax. We don't have the authority to tax. We don't get aid. Our revenue source, we have a few grants, but primarily our revenue source is from school districts. And the reason I highlight that for you is that we are market driven. Again, we only provide services if school districts want to purchase those services, and we're not permitted to if they don't want them. We go through the same audit process that you do. We have the same requirements for audits. And at the end of the year, if we have funds remaining for our services, they go back to the school districts in the same manner that we request them. And then at the very bottom of the document, you can see again, we just basically staff up and we staff down depending on the services that are most useful to school districts. And certainly in this changing climate, we would anticipate that school district needs are going to shift. We'll be there to shift with you. If you look at the next document, I believe it says Morrisville-Eaton Central School District BOCES services as of 3/23/20. So this is just a quick rundown of the services that you currently participate in. Beginning at the top, you can see 101, that's our traditional CTE program. A little further down, 225 is STARS. I'm not going to run through all of this, but these are your current participations. And then I think finally, in this abbreviated review, if you take a look at the final document, our partnerships document, here's some information that is specific to Morrisville-Eaton. So if you turn to the first page, for example, under Career and Technical Education, you can see the 2019 CTE completion rate. You had 5 students that were first-year completers, 16 students that were second-year completers, and then 14 students received technical endorsements. And so to receive a technical endorsement, basically a student has to have taken a nationally recognized industry-based exam. They have to submit a portfolio and they have to complete a senior project. And that's something that can be recognized on their diploma. And you can see your current CTE enrollment as of January of 2020. You have 50 students enrolled, a fairly sizable number. And then the honor roll information below that, 20 students on high honor roll, 11 students honor roll, and 8 honorable mention. Shifting down a few paragraphs, you can see the placement rates for 2019 for CTE completers. Now, these percentages are not Morrisville-Eaton specific. These are CTE wide, our BOCES wide. So 53% of CTE completers are pursuing post-secondary education, 26% are pursuing related employment, 12% unrelated, 4% military, and then 5% other. Now, this document, which is quite lengthy, I won't go all the way through it, but you can turn, for example, to the bottom of page 2. You can see your participation in alternative and special education. Currently have 13 students participating in that. And turning further to, trying to look at the pages here, page 4, information about our planning and grant writing service. Early childhood education at the bottom of page 5. And then we walk through the other services in the document. I think unless you have a specific program question, I will turn this to Lisa to walk you through the budgets, and we can certainly answer questions at the end of that presentation as well.
Thanks, Scott. I'm sorry, I'm kind of scrolling through this quickly. I know that Nikki Miara has put folders together for you, and you will receive those in the mail. I know you're used to getting the folders in the packet. We have several handouts that are in the packet, including these handouts, but this was just kind of an overview. So at this point, I know that you do have the budget documents in front of you, so I'll walk you through those documents. Again, I know there's nobody new there this year, so you're pretty familiar with our format. The first two columns are 18-19 budget and expenditures. Second two columns are the current budget, the 19-20 budget, and then the final column represents the proposed 2021 budget. You'll see the staffing in our administrative budget, our central office staff, as well as our business office staff. 50% of our assistant director of finance, 20% of our assistant personnel director, and 4.5 clerks and support staff. We have the fringe benefits, all the health insurance, retirement system charges for those positions budgeted in this administrative budget. A line item for some equipment, supplies, and software, and interest charges on RAM borrowings. Other expenses include any mileage, meeting, and workshop expenses for those positions, board expenses, board meetings. Our independent audit is in the administrative budget, as well as membership fees for NISBA, NISCUS, ASBO, Marazda, and other groups that provide advocacy for the region. Contractual expenses include our 403B compliance, our GASB 45, and banking fees. Legal fees are included in the budget, as well as a cost for superintendent's meetings, postage, and advertising for legal notices. Then down on the bottom, you'll see some internal charges. So just as you purchase from COSERS from BOCES, the administrative budget also pays its share for items such as negotiations and labor relations, planning and grant writing, and technology support for the business office. So the current 19-20 budget for those direct expenses is $1,407,907. Proposed for 2021 is $1,445,037, or a 2.64% proposed increase. Then, as you know, the second piece of the BOCES administrative budget is the retiree health insurance expense. So for BOCES, we include all retirees across all COSERS in this budget. We currently have 225 retirees. We're anticipating 24 for next year, for a total of 249 retirees. The total administrative budget with the retiree piece currently is $4,946,906. Proposed is $5,289,355. Part C shows the revenue sources to offset the budget items up above. We have indirect costs, some interest, some non-component revenue, and our retiree drug subsidy that comes in. We also have our collections and advance account, which is an accrual that we set up several years ago to directly offset that retiree health insurance piece up above. And then finally, the local component district contribution that's allocated across all of our components. This year, the 9 components are contributing $1,100,170. Next year, proposed is $1,132,845, or 2.97% proposed change. And then on the bottom, you'll see how that allocation is spread across the region. And that's based on the Arwada. In column 1, you'll see the regional Arwada is 15,374. For Morrisville-Eaton, that represents 667 Arwada. For next year, regionally, we lost 235 Arwada. Morrisville-Eaton decreased by 12, bringing them to 655. That didn't change the allocation, the percent allocation for Morrisville-Eaton. You stayed at 4.3%. Column 3 shows the dollar share. This year, Morrisville-Eaton is contributing $47,740. Next year proposed is $49,023. Column 4 shows your aid ratio. So Morrisville-Eaton's estimated Arwada aid ratio this year is 71.3. Next year increase to 72.9. Column 5 shows your estimated return through the BOCES aid piece. And column 6 shows your estimated local share after BOCES aid. So currently, the after aid net local share is $23,416 for Morrisville-Eaton. For next year would be $24,201, or a change of $785. Any questions specifically on the administrative budget or allocation?
No.
Okay. So next I'll go through the capital and rent budget. There's two pieces to the budget. We have a committee of superintendents on which Mr. Malloy serves for allocating or planning for the rental agreements with school districts. So we rent space such as special ed, our Costello building. We rent space in schools for summer school and our allied health program. They proposed a 0.5% increase on those special ed pieces and 1% on summer school. You'll see that we also have facility projects, so that's the second piece of the capital budget. We have our DASNY payment that will go through 2023. We also have an annual capital project. As you'll recall, we had planned on doing some Rossetti safety upgrades last year, but when our bids came in, they came in over budget, so we actually credited that $600,605 at the end of the 18-19 school year. We did use this year's budget to go ahead with that project. Our bids came in within the budget, so we moved forward, and we're in the middle of that project right now. And then for 2021, we're planning on doing some CTE space reconfiguration. So you see that between those two components, we've had a pretty flat capital and rent budget at $1,738,700. And again, the allocation is the same based on our WADA. So Morrisville-Eaton has a 4.3% share both this year and next year. So the estimated local share after aid for Morrisville-Eaton this year is estimated at $21,654. For next year, $20,390. Or actually a decrease of $1,264 after aid for Morrisville-Eaton on the capital piece. Any questions on the capital and rent budget?
No.
Any questions at all?
I don't think so. No.
I would just like to say then thank you again, but also I want to let you know that Mr. Malloy has been a solid partner in our effort to try to understand the crisis in front of us with COVID-19, and that he has been on the phone every day with us as a group, and he's been his measured and steady approach to this has been a real benefit to all of us. So I just want you folks to know that as well.
Okay, thanks for letting us know.
Scott, same goes to you. Your leadership's been appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you guys going to stay on?
Thank you.
Stay on and listen to the whole board meeting if you'd like.
Okay.
We appreciate your flexibility tonight and having us present to you. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night. Yes. So it sounded like.
I'm trying to think.
Scott
is now exiting.
They have a lot of staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, they have staff that go and work in other buildings.
Okay.
So. Okay. Can I please have a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special ed, preschool special ed, and 504 meetings held January 30th through March 13, 2020?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're on to the reports. Bob?
And Bob, just remember.
Good evening. Yep, I had to unmute, sorry. You have my written report in terms of the 1920 budget actuals. The numbers have been updated. There hasn't been a lot of change in terms of where we are trending. Are there any questions on that particular item? If not, the 2021 budget is under development. You see the updated numbers there. Obviously, with everything that is going on, we are also starting to build a worst case scenario budget. That's not ready yet, but if we end up having to go that direction, depending on what comes out of Albany in the next couple of weeks, we will be ready to present that at next month's meeting as well. Things are being reviewed and considered. There's been a number, any questions on 2021 before I move on? No? Okay. There's been a number of updates. Oh, sorry.
I was just looking on the very last page under the coasters.
Yes.
The library and computer instruction was decreased by over 10,000.
Which page are you looking at, Jackie?
2,600 subtotal left.
It's the one that says the 2021 draft budget, and then it says coaster.
Oh, okay. Yep. The library and computer assisted instruction includes the IT budget, which this year included that $80,000 amount that has been carrying over since at least the 17-18 budget. We've taken that out of next year's budget on both the revenue and the expenditure side. So actually that budget is going up some. It's not getting, the net effect is it's not getting cut.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There are a number of updates regarding the capital projects. In particular, the good news about phase one is I think we are about to wrap that up. The issue between Upstate Companies and Flower City Glass has been resolved. We are waiting to receive a release of lien so we can finally close that project out. With respect to phase two, you should have on your desk a document that was prepared this morning based on feedback that we received from the Ferrara law firm, as well as from Nate Van Wee at CNS and other sources. I'm going to put it up on the board quick. It looks like this situation. Basically, it gives us an opportunity, and I'm hoping for direction. The state has determined that all construction, including school capital projects, qualifies as essential function, and that we can proceed with wrapping up phase two if we like. If we do not want the construction workers in the building at this time, there is an option under Article 14.3 of our contract that would allow us to suspend the work for the convenience of the owner. I don't have the language itself right now, and Nate strongly suggested that we consult with legal counsel if we want to invoke that clause to keep the contractors out of the buildings to finish it. Matt and I have talked about this. We are cautious about interactions between our employees and the construction workers, but given the locations of the work, we think that we can keep the two workforces segregated to the point where it really minimizes any risk to our staff. We would have the construction workers come in a segregated entrance. The corridors would be taped off. They could only get into and out of the rooms that they're working on. And then once they are done, our plan is to leave those spaces dormant for at least 4 days before we would go in. There are additional guidelines as well. I guess I'm looking at this point for the board's feedback on whether to to proceed with having the construction company come in to wrap this project up for phase 2, or to notify them that or to reach out to the attorneys so that we can initiate Article 14.3.
I can just speak for myself, but if it sounds like if you have a plan for keeping everybody socially distant, there's no interaction, and then come in and clean the spaces 4 or 5 days later, I think it's to our benefit to get this work done when students aren't here. To me, it just makes sense to wrap it up. Anybody else?
I agree.
I would agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, great. We will. I will reach out to Bellows tomorrow and get that ball rolling, and also alert Matt and his crew so that we can set up the safety protocols that we talked about and make sure that everybody stays safe. Thank you for your feedback on that. The last item I have is just an informational piece. It's called a business continuity plan that was left on your desk today as well. It was developed last week with feedback from the people in my office, Candace and Jessica, and then shared with administration. Just telling you how we are going to proceed with making sure that payroll is run and accounts payable are paid. If you have any questions on that or any feedback, I would certainly welcome that. Of course, none of these documents are chiseled in stone, and we can certainly adapt as we need to. So that is the extent of my report. I did mention about the community eligibility program, but we have time to discuss that further next month.
Okay. Any questions for Bob?
No. I'm good.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Mr. Malloy?
Number 1 on my list is coronavirus. Hasn't been identified as a positive case in Morrisville-Eaton yet, but that's all we've been living. I think that the entire team, from custodian to food service to bus drivers, every single person that touches the Morrisville-Eaton community, that has been what our complete reality has been since really prior to last Friday. It's a sad situation. I think there's a lot of people that are scared, and they have reason to be. A lot of unknowns. We're following the recommendations of the Center for Disease Control and the Department of Health. I think common sense would say it's eventually going to be here somewhere in some capacity. So you'll notice that how we're sitting today, we are all separated by 6 feet. We're doing our part to socially distance and try to prevent the spread of COVID-19. I've been trying my best as I can to keep the community informed on where we're at with the delivery of instruction, the continuity of instruction. The principals have been incredible. Brian has been a wealth of resource and knowledge for us as well, just trying to create these structures and systems. I'm sure I can speak for the entire team that they are working harder probably than they've ever worked before, trying to keep up with the pressure and the responsibilities that we're constantly being provided. Guidance seems to come in faster than you can read it. You've got all these different agencies telling you what has to be implemented and how. And I have to credit the administrative team for bearing with me as we navigate this crisis. But I think all the pertinent information, I believe all of you have been getting the school messenger calls and letters, and I try to incorporate as much of what we can in those messages. Thought exchange review tied to that. We've put out 2 thought exchanges now, getting feedback from the community about what's important to them. The greatest concern and obstacle that we've been trying to navigate with this whole thing is trying to provide a continuity of instruction with the limited technology resources that we have. We do have a shipment of, I believe, about 600 devices of some kind. Shipments seem to be a little bit slow right now because of reduced freight people. It's anticipated, though, at some time in April, we should be getting these devices. The greater challenge is going to be finding connectivity to those devices to the internet for people that live outside spectrum and frontier coverage areas. We have been consulting, Joe is in the other room, but he's been helping as well as Bob, trying to find a connectivity device that'll work for everybody. We know that regardless of the product that we pick, there's still going to be residents in our community that don't have cellular signal at their houses. So Joe is exploring the concept of providing satellite dish internet to those houses. And we also know that there are going to be houses that not only do they not have cell coverage, you can't put a satellite dish in the middle of a forest if that's where their house is. So trying to come up with a continuity of instruction plan for those children. They are all elements that the administrative team has been trying to put together solutions for, and those seem to be the hot items that have been identified in thought exchange from the community of being a priority, finding ways to get these devices. We're going to just take the small steps that we can as we're able to. We don't anticipate being able to connect everybody to the internet right away, but we should be able to connect them to a device in a pretty quick time frame. Once everybody has a device, we can start finding ways to deliver instruction either through USB flash drives or sharing, having the kids turn in a device to have a lesson loaded onto it and let us have two devices in their name, where one, they're able to access a lesson, the other we can be programming or loading the next lesson onto it. But just looking at options for that for a continuous exchange for those very unique type situations. For now, it's getting our hands on actual physical Chromebooks, iPads, laptops, whatever we can get. And you'll notice in the letter that was sent out about 20 minutes ago in School Messenger, we owe a level of appreciation to our neighbors. We picked up 10 Chromebooks today from Stockbridge Valley. 29 Chromebooks are coming from VBS. And Chittenango and Camden are right now just trying to get their devices out to their kids, but they know that there will be some leftovers that they'll have when it's all done. So if we can get devices, at least so the kids can have some kind of connectivity, whether it's got internet or not, they have a device to do work on. And then when we get our devices, we'll just swap them out. And when we get the hotspots, we'll deploy those as possible. But it's definitely proven to be a huge challenge. We've had, like I said, a number of conversations with wireless providers. I reached out to both Senator May's office and Assemblyman Brindisi, or Representative Brindisi's office, asking for some help with funding these devices or providing them. Verizon identified that the federal government and the state government have ordered thousands and thousands and thousands of hotspots, which has depleted our access to get them for ourselves. So there's just this myriad of issues, but I want the board to know and the community to know that we're working as hard as we can to get the devices as fast as we can. But it doesn't seem to be like we're going to have everything in place much before May, if that early.
Any others?
That's all I've got this time.
Yeah, I have a quick question. How are we providing the secondary services that a lot of special education kids need, occupational therapy or that type of stuff? Are there people going to their houses to do that, or how's that work?
So actually, Brian, if you want to unmute yourself and talk about the continuity of services.
Sure. Madison Oneida BOCES put together packets that went home to students, and they should have received it either last Thursday or Friday. Mrs. Laux, our speech language pathologist, put similar activities together to send home. And one of the asks of at least Sarah was, can she create some form of accountability sheet where maybe the parents can check off what activities students are doing, so when we return to school, they can provide that to her as documentation that some of the activities did take place.
Okay, I was just wondering, I'm with the not wanting people to be, driving all over the place or getting into houses that no one's there. I just didn't know how it was going on.
Yeah, no, it's a challenge, but I know that like we've been looking at different concepts too of providing virtual physical therapy where the therapist can either give a document to the parents of what they can do with their own child and even connect in and watch some of these therapies that are taking place and coach and guide. That hasn't been implemented yet, mostly because we don't have devices for everybody yet. But it is a continuity of services concept that's been being discussed. One of the factors that we've been told just to be ready for is probably the high likelihood of requiring compensatory services for our students when this is all done. So hopefully that federal stimulus package will incorporate in that ability to take care of those kids in that format.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
Does the board have anything? I didn't. SBI program, the latest one was canceled, obviously, so.
Nothing's going on that I've heard of.
I will, if I could just add on the Board of Education piece, I have reached out to Brian Fessler of the New York State School Board Association, asking for some advocacy to address some concerns related to getting signatures on petitions for school board members that are up for re-election or those that are looking to run for the school board. At the state level, for the legislative primaries, my understanding is their petitions have been reduced by, they only have to get 30% of the signatures that were originally identified, but there has been no update from how does that impact local elections. But it is, Brian Fessler sent a response that they have delivered that request to the governor's office, and it's probably one of 50,000 things that he's got to make a decision on.
Okay. All right, moving on to financial items. Do I have a motion to approve the budgetary transfers as attached?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The next is a roll call vote. Do I have a motion to adopt the bus proposition to be voted on by qualified voters on May 19th, 2020?
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
Mrs. Doroshenko?
Aye.
Mrs. Groves?
Aye.
Mr. Ames is absent. Mr. Brodell?
Aye.
And Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Thank you.
On personnel, do I have a motion to approve the request for a maternity child rearing leave for Sarah Laux to begin on or about May 15, 2020, and returning in September for the 2020-2021 school year? All or a portion of the leave will be paid by using accumulated sick time.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
What happens if we're still closed? Does she still just use sick leave, or can she waive that and not start it at that point?
They are still working now.
Right.
So so she would still have a work responsibility. If she didn't want to take her leave, she
Right.
could retract her leave request.
Okay.
But we would still need to find somebody to fill her role, to deliver the services, whatever way we can. So
But if she wants to not take her sick leave because she's working from home, and she could still probably do that, can she waive this?
my understanding, Bob, is that is allowable. You can retract your maternity leave at any time.
That is my understanding as well.
Okay, because it would, I mean, if she's still working from home, it would be pointless to take maternity leave unless she just doesn't want to be bothered.
What I can say, having a 4-year-old at home
Right.
and my wife now working from home, it is very difficult to juggle, taking care of your child and getting your work
Right.
done. So I could see it still being beneficial for somebody that wants to. It's just tough. I think our teachers are putting in an awful lot of hours trying to keep up with the demands, more than if they were actually here, I would think in a lot of cases.
Not having any kids in school can we talk about that later? About what some of the things our teachers are doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Did we vote on that, or was that part of the discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You have the My Learning Plan for an informational item. On to old business. Can I have a motion to approve the MECS 2021 student program calendar with the half days?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
On to new business. Can I have a motion to approve the MECS School Activity Fund for February 2020?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the athletic combination as submitted for the 2019-2020 school year?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We're now on to the agenda, or the addendum. Can I have a motion to adopt the COVID-19 resolution as outlined in the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have no correspondence, board policy development and review. We have policy 7004, education of homeless children, 7800, extracurricular activities, 8001, school year and school day, 8102, class size, and 8205, limited English proficiency instruction, English language learners. Does anybody have any concerns on their second reading? Do I have a motion to approve those policies?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So regulation 8031.1 is, Jody, that's a delete?
Jody, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Sorry, yes, it is a deletion.
Okay, so do we need to, that was previously adopted by a former board, so we have to make a motion to delete it?
Yep.
Okay. Do I have a motion to delete 8031.1?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So 8205.1 only shows that it was approved by the superintendent. So is this a second reading for informational purposes only?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any concerns with that regulation? It's the limited English proficiency instruction. It was stapled to that one. Okay. Thank you. So now, in the pile of papers that were sitting at your desk when you got here, it's the Mobile Electronic Device Use Agreement 7700. We'd like to do the first and second reading and approval. Where did the wording, the suggested wording come from?
So the policy started out with, we didn't have one that had comprehensive language, but Poland Central School. So there were a number of policies that Jody found through BOCES. The one that seemed to be closest to what we were looking for came from Poland Central Schools. Probably 2 months ago, we presented the policy to our technology committee. We were going page by page through the policy, making recommended adjustments for our district to propose to the board. We got through the first 4 pages as a technology committee during our first meeting together, again, 2 months ago. We had another meeting scheduled, I think, for this week at that time to go through the final pages of it. Because of the circumstances that we're in, we took all the feedback that was provided, made the adjustments as necessary, and then Bob, over the weekend, took a look at the last section of the policy. There were not a lot of adjustments that seemed to jump out as being necessary. That policy, Bob, you did share it with the technology committee this afternoon for their feedback as well, right?
Yes, it was later this afternoon, and I received no feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any concerns?
What it does too is it gives us a starting point. We don't have a policy. We have devices coming hopefully before our next board meeting. So we wanted to have a system in place to be able to distribute them.
Will you be handing out a copy of this with the devices?
Yes, the regulation actually identifies a checkbox that they had to the review policy number 7700. So they'll get the policy, they'll complete the regulation and sign and submit that to the district.
The number might change. It might not be 7,700, just so you're aware. It depends on where it fits in our table of contents.
Okay.
Well, it started as a policy from Poland. It's substantially, I don't want to say substantially different than their policy, but we have a lot of changes that were noted throughout the document. That was not discussed or was specifically discussed that we changed was grades K through 8 were initially not to be leaving the school. But Brian had he was the one that made that connection of making sure that we have, for cases, the emergency cases like this, where we have the ability to have them leave the school.
So our section that changes to the original one that we used is the bolded items?
This policy, the whole thing is new. There may be some policies that we're going to need to delete that are captured in this policy.
In part, in answer to Brian's question, the bolding was actually part of the formatting of the Poland policies themselves. They seem to do bolding in the middle of paragraphs at times for emphasis. That was not something that we changed.
Okay.
Are we providing the cases?
Yes. I know we have cases for the iPads. Bob, we have cases coming for the laptops as well, right?
I believe we do, yes, but I'd have to double check with Joe.
Devices that we have coming, are they just loaner devices? Our smart bond finally came through and our devices are coming, or?
Yes. And they were ordered beginning of March.
What are we doing with devices lost or stolen, or are we?
Fair market value, that would be on page 4 of 7 at the bottom.
But they have to pay, the person has to pay that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Paragraph C. Roman numeral number 4.
What if they can't pay?
We give them another one. There's an insurance that you can buy on them that protects against lost and stolen. Joe's done an analysis and identified that we can replace so many devices under lost and stolen that it wasn't financially. In fact, some recommendations from presenters that I heard at some conferences recently have been it's probably not financially advantageous to have insurance for those types of situations. There will be some. I think it's just going to be one of those things that we're going to experience known loss, and until it becomes some kind of pattern, I think we're going to be obligated to provide something.
And if it does become a pattern,
then we'll have to consult with our legal team to see what we're able to do. One suggestion that I have is on page 3. It's in the middle of the introductory before A. It's the sentence that says, however, in the event of an extended closure due to unforeseen circumstances, devices for students in grades K-8 may be for off-campus use. I'm going to recommend that we have something in there that may be signed out or whatever this process is being called. May be loaned out for off-campus use. Loaned out, I think, might be a good choice of words.
I would agree with that.
Isn't that, wouldn't that computer be assigned to them when it goes into the classroom? Or are you just assuming that it's a grade level set in the classroom?
That particular device will be for the student. So every student will have their own designated device.
So you're asking that if they're going to take them off campus, that they have to do a different checkout type thing?
Yeah, the checkout will be this regulation.
Okay.
But I was just thinking it would make sense to have the language be that devices for students in grades K-8 may be loaned out for off-campus use in that event. So just throw the term in there, loaned out. Because the earlier in the sentence says, students in K-8 devices will be assigned for school use only and will remain on campus. So that's the primary purpose of these devices. This is the event of unforeseen circumstances, so they may be loaned out for off-campus use.
If grades 6, 7, and 8 don't have a homeroom and don't have some place they go back to before they leave to go on the bus, where are they going to be stored, or how are they going to be stored? Or...
We still have to determine where that place is going to be. And that was actually one of the discussions of the technology committee.
Okay.
Yeah. So grade 6 has a homeroom, has a classroom that they would call their homeroom. 7 and 8 can be a little bit more difficult. Bob, do you remember? I remember they're coming up with a solution or an idea where they were going to keep them. Do you remember what it was?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not recalling off the top of my head. Brian, do you?
It was definitely discussed.
No, I don't.
But yeah, when we get everything back, we'll have to have a system in place for that.
Okay.
So do I have a motion to approve this policy?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then there is the associated regulation. We don't have to approve it, but we should just look it over. Does anybody have any concerns with the device use agreement?
If a student won't sign it or a parent won't sign it, then what?
We have to come up with another way to provide an instruction, some kind of instructional delivery to them. Could be worksheets.
Okay.
So, all right, if you think of anything, please pass that on to Mr. Malloy or Bob.
Okay.
Thanks for your work on that, Bob and Brian.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Doesn't look like there's anybody here for privilege of the floor.
We do have a privilege of the floor, though. Jackie wanted to ask about some.
Oh, yeah, what kind of instruction is going on in the classrooms? Where
Yeah.
the teachers are doing?
Why don't we start with Eddie? Eddie, do you want to talk a little bit about what teachers are doing from the elementary level?
Sure. We had teachers, we delivered 3 weeks of material, so paper copies, but we've also adopted Seesaw, which is an online platform. It's for age groups, elementary students, where Microsoft Teams is more for middle high school students. This is more geared towards elementary, has lesson ideas for the teachers, online learning. We are waiting for the approval. I think, Bob, they said by midweek we should have the approval for Seesaw.
Seesaw was approved in WinCap this morning, so I'm not sure what the next step is, but it's at the RIC, so
okay,
it should be good to go soon.
So I'll touch base with the RIC tomorrow, but some teachers have created, I know I shared one with Greg, Sula Gorga, created a video from her home and shared it with her students. She read a book and it was regarding, feeling safe at your house. And it had a great message, especially with the circumstances that we're facing right now. But I'm meeting with my team leaders Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 10 a.m. I met with them this morning. They're meeting with their respective teams on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Using Microsoft Teams. But right now the teachers are checking in, communicating with families. We're trying to figure out, again, going back to Greg, our obstacle and challenge is the internet access with the devices regarding the online aspect of it. But teachers are definitely trying to, and I gotta say, they are open and they're flexible in using the online platforms to communicate with their students. So I appreciate that and all their hard work, especially my team leaders, Steph Hughes, Sue Osborne, and Leanne Lake.
Thank you.
Tracy, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with high school instruction?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. You're very brave to come out tonight. It's impressive. The high school team has been incredible as well. Like Eddie said, everybody stepping to the plate and doing their business. They were, it was suggested before everybody went home to send materials home for 3 weeks of review material. Most people did. Some people did that on Monday and Tuesday. In addition, we've had not only paper copies delivered, but even a science teacher has come to get dissection material and is doing some online videos for students to do some dissection. They have been meeting in teams. I set up departments for teams, and I've checked in with every department and spoken to everybody except the nurse and the social worker. We were supposed to do that today, but our other meetings ran late. Everybody else has been, we've all been in contact through emails. They have been instructing students through email, through Teams. They've been instructing them for phone calls. The biggest thing, the biggest hurdle that they've been dealing with this week has been trying to connect with all the students. They are starting to keep a running log of not only attendance, but those that they need to reach out to. It's been a very fluid and flexible mode of communication between the teachers and me. We also have had our team leaders being very instrumental. We're meeting every couple days. They get word out to their constituents and questions back. In addition, I'm meeting with departments and individuals on as needed basis. But everybody else, everything is a cycle every other day. The math folks have been using Math Space to communicate with their students, which was something that most of them had already been accustomed to before this went into place. We have a couple teachers that have already started to do some interdisciplinary units, combining their resources so that they can take a look at overlapping curriculum and better fit the needs of the students in that manner. It's been suggested and will continue to be suggested that that might be something we want to really take a very hard look at in the coming weeks. And as far as anything else, I can just tell you that everybody's been doing a fantastic job working together. Any question that arises, people are not hesitating to reach out. I also want to give a huge kudos. Mike Pavone and Megan Palmer banded together before everybody left to do a very quick tutorial on how to use the platform Teams. And then Megan's husband actually made a training video to give to the entire staff. I passed it on to Eddie for his staff. Dave did a great training video, and now they're talking about trying to do something else, another kind of training, so that the teachers can train the students. So everybody's been working together. It's been very impressive through the times of crisis. People come together.
Thank you.
And I would just like to quick thank you to our custodial staff, our cafeteria workers, Chris Dorshenko, and delivering the work to our students. And that's been a task. I know they've had some circumstances with dogs. And so I really appreciate everything our bus drivers are doing to support our students and their families.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And I certainly appreciate the leadership that all of you have been providing your respective teams. One thing I want to share, Eddie, too, is we've been talking about this FERPA compliance and 2D compliance, making sure everybody's privacy rights are secured. It's amazing how quickly we can get a FERPA waiver and consent waiver put together, developed in front of teachers and students in a situation where we anticipate getting a lot of positive response in, so that we can deliver instruction in an effective way to kids. But your pursuit to have those types of things provided to your teachers, it's your leadership that's gotten that stuff going. So, but to both of you, thank you both, Tracy and Eddie, for your leadership of your teams. The quick, there was no learning curve with learning all of this software and technology. It was just like a sudden drop off a cliff, and people are moving at a record pace to get this stuff going. But thank you to the entire leadership team for making this as the best kind of transition possible under the circumstances that we're in.
Well, if I may, I think it's also important for the board to know that our leadership is coming directly from you in all of your updates. So I think it's important to thank you as well. We only know what we're told, and it's a learning curve for all of us. So thank you, Greg.
There's one thing, though, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, that with all of this creative work that people are doing, they should still keep in mind copyright laws. Actually, for a teacher to read a book on Facebook and transmit it is illegal unless they have approval from either the author or the company. There are a lot of authors out there now who are reading their own books, but it's just, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll let them know.
And I know Liz Wise has reached out to a couple of our authors as well, asking for permission to read some of the books to the students.
And a lot of them are giving that, blanket. I know Bruce Coble has, and there's some other ones that have said, please read our books. So.
Right.
Thank you. Thank our teachers also, please.
We will
send them a message.
Right. We need an executive session?
We do need an executive session. I don't need anybody to be invited in.
You guys can go home.
For the purposes of.
Contracts, see.
Yeah, have a safe drive home. It was kind of nasty, so.